centro. Na parte superior são 6 portas, distribuídas em 3 saídas de cada lado. Na falta de energia, luzes de emergência se acenderão automaticamente. E este espaço possui extintores em locais estratégicos, por isso, em caso de incêndio ou incidente, siga as orientações da nossa brigada de incêndio. Temos outras dicas também para o seu conforto. É proibido consumir alimentos e bebidas dentro da sala. Por gentileza, desligue o seu celular. E não se esqueça que não é permitido fotografar ou filmar sem a prévia autorização da produção. A Fundação Cidade das Artes deseja a todos um bom espetáculo.
No interior do Pará, a Franciele inventou de olhar de um outro jeito que estava sempre ali à sua volta. Inventou de transformar caroço de açaí em tijolo. E ganhou 10 prêmios na maior feira de ciências do país, que é patrocinada pela Petrobras. A Petrobras apoia a pesquisa científica porque o conhecimento é a energia que move a vida das pessoas. Vamos inventar? Uma jornada pelo conhecimento.
Good evening, everyone. Hello, my name is Peter Friedlander, and I work on our original series at Netflix, where I've had the opportunity to work closely with many creators on bringing their shows to life for audiences on Netflix, from shows like House of Cards to Sense8, Narcos. It is a great privilege to be here in Rio today and at Rio2C, and it's even a greater privilege to be here tonight with 2 of the most visionary creatives I've had the pleasure of working with. So please welcome to the stage Charlie Brooker and Annabelle Jones, creator and executive producers of the critically acclaimed series Black Mirror and the Netflix interactive film Black Mirror Bandersnatch. Welcome, Charlie and Annabelle.
Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. As we are fortunate to have a room full of incredibly creative, talented people here with us this evening in the audience, I want to start by posing a question to the 2 of you about creativity and innovation. Can you tell us about the last piece of entertainment that you saw that you felt was truly, truly innovative?
I'll go first. I would say Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse.
Good one.
It's a great film. The idea of Spider-Man meeting his other counterparts from different eras and iterations, and then embracing all of the tropes and subverting them, and obviously the animation and all the different visual styles. That, very dangerous idea to mesh them all, but I think they absolutely pulled it off. It was very clever and very well executed.
I'd go along with that.
Really?
That was amazing, that film. But it was a psychedelic freak out. wasn't it? I took my children to see it, and I was pleased that it was warping their minds in front of me. I would say the very last thing I saw that I thought was truly innovative was a small computer game called Baba Is You on the Nintendo Switch, which I recommend. I will not attempt to explain it because everyone would fall asleep. But it's a really unusual and remarkable puzzle game that couldn't exist in any other medium.
Do you recommend it to anyone over 8 years old?
Yeah. I recommend. Yes, of course I do.
Only with the title Baba is what?
Baba
Baba
Is You. The title only makes sense when you play the game. It's all about logic. Yeah.
Take note, everyone.
Baba.
Baba is you.
Baba Is You. That's my tip.
I think if you asked that question to the people here, I think many would have answered Black Mirror Bandersnatch.
I couldn't say that. I wasn't allowed to say that.
Well, you guys are so used to telling creative, innovative stories, but Bandersnatch is a whole other level of innovation, and it perfectly matched into the Black Mirror universe as well. Tell us a little bit, what was this experience like working with interactive storytelling for you for the first time?
painful.
Yeah, harrowing. It was difficult, but also exciting, strangely liberating at the same time as confusing and difficult. Because usually, as a writer, I guess when we're coming up with a storyline for a regular Black Mirror episode, we are trying to simplify the story, and you're trying to decide what to leave out. And with this, you could potentially, every time I kept sort of adding pieces to it, it was like adding a whole new wing to the house that you had to furnish and decorate. So it was an ever-expanding sort of happy nightmare.
Yes, but we quickly realized that if you are too liberated and your choices open up too many worlds, then actually you end up with something that doesn't feel very cohesive, and you end up with lots of different endings that feel very arbitrary and therefore have no meaning and don't feel as if they've revealed any more about the character or anything about the world. So actually the hardest part was almost like a Black Mirror episode where you are simplifying and trying to enrich the Stefan's world and make it feel authentic, and that there's a truth to nearly every ending.
Yeah, I would go along with that. I would say that keeping the story, keeping the decisions that you, the viewer, make, they're slightly separate to Stefan, our main character, and that means that he is a consistent character no matter what choices you make.
Yes, I think that's the key creative choice. So when Netflix asked us at the beginning whether we would like to do an interactive film, Charlie and I were in a meeting, and we very politely nodded because it's Netflix. We're like, yes, that's a great idea. And we walked out the room and went, there is no way we are doing that. Absolutely no way. It's a gimmick. No. And then annoyingly, Charlie came up with an idea that could only be made if it was interactive, and that was our starting point, where you really sort of, I didn't do that, where you really feel that the interactivity only enhances the idea. Yeah. So as Charlie was saying, the idea that our protagonist is aware that that we are telling him what to do just allowed us to take the interactive element and subvert it. So it felt sort of quite postmodern in that sense, an interactive film that is aware it's an interactive film. And the viewer feels more complicit, and that only emphasizes their emotional engagement, and the whole thing becomes deliciously wretched. Wretched means horrible.
I remember when you pitched us just the core idea, and it was so clear that you had cracked it just as you defined it. And then the journey began. So I know you've had various sorts of journeys with creating Black Mirror episodes. Some you can jump right in, and others you're more methodical. And obviously with Bandersnatch, it was probably different. So do you want to talk a little bit about that and how you put it together?
Sure. It was, sometimes there are story ideas that are kind of about the feeling in a way. So something like San Junipero was one where it was kind of, it wasn't like methodically plotted out in advance. There was a lot of sort of riffing as I wrote it. Obviously, with something as complex as this, you can't do that. I had to learn how to use a programming language called Twine, which is for writing interactive fiction. It's a bit like HTML, and I had to do that just to write the story outline. It's one of the only times, well, the only time I've written a story outline that's crashed, because it would literally, there were bugs in it. So that sort of side of things was really interesting. And it was interesting as we went along, we kept saying, we were trying to experiment, so we kept saying to all your tech people, we kept saying to them, can you know, is this possible or is that possible? And they would never just say, no, they'd say, not currently, we'll find out how to do that. And most of the time they managed to sort things out. So as we went along, it kept evolving as well. So that was also very different to writing a regular story.
You had the engineering partners really to help.
Oh, it's great for me because, like, as I've obviously explained, I'm into computer games, so it was marrying the two worlds for me. So I've always thought that writing a script is like programming anyway. Basically, you're just writing a load of instructions, aren't you? I've boiled it down there to instruction writing. That's what it is.
Great.
Yeah? But it meant I got to be a real nerd.
Yeah.
Well done, you.
Thank you.
Well, let's talk about you two. You've been working alongside each other for several years now, and you've been on this journey together. Tell us a little bit what that's like, working together. Doesn't the fact that I look so sorrowful all the time tell you?
We tolerate each other.
Speak for yourself. So, I didn't mean that. I just said it to get a cheap laugh.
You are cheap.
Yeah, okay.
We have known each other a long time, and 20 years?
About 20 years. Oh.
And maybe because of that, we have a mutual disrespect. So that means that we can tell each other quite honestly when, you know, we just have a very open and honest conversation about things. So if
Well, you do. I just cower in fear.
So perfect. So we just have a very healthy relationship where we will argue with each other from positions of, you know, passion and just creative integrity, and we sort of just have a little, you know, fight, and it only strengthens the idea. Because Charlie's got so many ideas, is so prolific, that often it is about, you know, finding the real thematic point to a story, or taking things out because we've got to make a series, so let's save that idea for a different episode. So yeah, it's we haven't killed each other yet.
We haven't killed each other yet, and we were, I think, and we do, generally speaking, actually, we I think see most things actually the same. Most creative decisions we tend to agree, and so we're very involved in, obviously, throughout the entire production. So, you know, when I'm first coming up with ideas and I'm discussing them with Annabelle, we always know we're onto something if she'll often start really forcing me to query the idea by going, well, that wouldn't happen, or this wouldn't work. And then
that's shit.
Or that's shit. Yeah, get out. You say that. So, get out of my office. It's midnight. So
try harder.
But and then I'll get excited. There'll be a point where I start getting excited and start trying to sort of, like, either make you laugh or cry with the description that I'm coming out with. And then that sort of carries through all the way until the edit, I think, is in a way, the most important draft, I always think, of the script. And so we're very involved in the edit, and we sort of, we're very opinionated, I guess, but I think most of the time we share the same opinion. So obviously that helps. Otherwise, it would be a constant war.
I've just thought a really good point.
Oh, go on.
I've oversold it now, but I think we don't take each other too seriously, and I think that's a key thing for Black Mirror. In that, at the heart of a lot of the films is a dark comedy, and it's often a comic exaggeration of an event, and we're not trying to deliver a message, we're not trying to be earnest, we don't have the answers, we're just trying to pose questions that maybe unsettle and make people think about things, and often the things that we're thinking about. So there's not a preachiness, I hope, to the films, and that's something that we both care quite passionately about, not delivering and being earnest and serious a message.
Yeah, I think we're slightly allergic to being earnest in real life. Maybe we're just shallow, terrible people.
Okay.
Well, you brought up some themes of Black Mirror, and we talk about them all the time. And one of them is there are elements of technology in the episodes, and I wanted to talk a little bit about your relationship with technology and what your thoughts are about technology and how does it influence the creative process for you.
I think that sometimes when I get frustrated, if I read things that people say about the show, which is never good for anyone, like you should never read anything like that, but obviously, of course, you're going to. I only get annoyed if people describe the show as being anti-technology, because I kind of don't think it is, in the same way that Haunting of Hill House is not anti-dead people. So, so we use technology in the same way that other stories might use the supernatural or superpowers or something like that. We show people being destroying themselves often, basically. And I think that a lot of the time, a big aspect of our job actually is almost product design. So we look at the designs and the layout of every piece of technology in the show. It always has to feel seductive and like it is something that our characters would genuinely want to use. And I don't think you could be as obsessive about all those aspects of things if you didn't really actually like technology. I get cross if I watch films or TV shows and there's like somebody using a computer in it and the computer is doing something that a computer shouldn't do. I get really, well, not furious, I'm not crazy, but I get quite upset on some level. So, and I think obviously the show often we think a lot about the technology in it, but I think we're not sort of anti-technology per se, because it's a very powerful tool. It's just, it's like any powerful tool, you could misuse it. Like a drill. A drill is drill's a powerful tool. You could cause a lot of damage with a drill.
I think a lot of the Black Mirror stories are very personal and often about human frailty and weaknesses, and I hope that's why some of them are quite emotionally engaging. And so the technology tends to be quite backgrounded, and the technology isn't the villain in the story. It's our relationship and how we over-rely on it, or how we can be manipulated, but it's much more about human weaknesses. So the stories are often very simple, singular stories following a human dilemma.
And Black Mirror has really pierced the zeitgeist. It's out in the culture now, and you hear people say when something happens, like, oh, that's so very Black Mirror. Like, that could happen on Black Mirror. And
can they tell us what those ideas are so that we can use them?
Well, that's really the question. I mean, how do you stay ahead of it? How do you come up with the ideas? How do you come up with the ones that inspire you and stay ahead of the news?
Well, the world is helping us. I mean, the world is changing so quickly because obviously communication is so immediate and global that things are changing at such a quick pace. So I think we've got lots of ammunition, lots of things.
And I think also, I mean, because there's been such I mean, apart from the news, and obviously, like, what we don't tend to do, actually, we don't tend to sit down and go, what's the Black Mirror take on Brexit? Or what are we going to do? Like, we don't tend to do that. We sometimes do that afterwards, where we go, oh, the Waldo moment, that's basically Donald Trump. You know, we sort of like realize after the fact that we were thinking of something that was in the zeitgeist. But we don't tend to do that. I think that because technology has now spread into everyone's lives, actually it helps us to come up with even more high concept stories. I think people in some way will find it doesn't feel so much like sci-fi to people because it's that kind of magic is part of their everyday existence now. So you're sort of accustomed to thinking in abstract ways about possessions and your personality and privacy and technology. All of those things are now common currency in your everyday life. So it actually helps us. There's less explaining you have to do in the first 10 minutes of an episode.
So do people must come up to you all the time and say, like, this is a Black Mirror idea.
Oh, yeah. It's like having an alert system for all the horrible things happening in the world, because people immediately, like, either they literally just email me and go, have you seen this? Have you seen this? Have you? There was a thing today. Where I was telling you about this earlier, where there was an implant that they can put in people's heads that turns thought patterns into text. By it, you put it in someone's head and you ask them to imagine they're saying something if they can no longer speak, and it recognizes the brain signals that are trying to make your jaw and vocal cords work, and it speaks for you. Probably useful.
Very Black Mirror.
It's very Black Mirror. It'd be good if you could connect it to like an animal and get it to speak, couldn't you? Like ask a cow.
Charlie, no spoilers.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, that would be good.
You're getting a sense of how these two work together.
That's not a bad idea. That's a good.
It's gone in.
Okay. Dr. Dolittle. It's been done. Yes. So people are constant. And Ukraine last week, where there was a comedian got elected to government, which again people were saying was like the Waldo moment. So it does happen quite a lot, and it does make us think, because as the world, when the news is very dystopian, you do have to sort of balance how dystopian you want your entertainment to be. Because there's a point at which if you wanted to watch just a depressing dystopia, you could just look out the fucking window. So, so we're sort of mindful of that. So we want to balance the show so it's not always despairing.
Yeah. If it was bleak all the time, it would be very predictable, and it wouldn't be much fun for us either.
Having said that, if it was sugary all the time, it would be awful.
Yeah.
So you guys have been breaking boundaries together for a long time with this show, and but actually the first drama you two worked together on was something called Dead Set, and this was a drama. It was a satirical horror series that aired 11 years ago, and it takes place on a reality show set during a zombie apocalypse. That's right. What can you tell us about that show that sort of sets the tone for the work that you're doing today?
So Dead Set was the first drama that Annabelle and I worked on together, and like I say, we'd done comedies and shows like that beforehand. And I presented comedy shows in the UK, so that was what I was known for doing. So I was quite nervous about how this show would be received, and because the premise for Dead Set was that there was a reality TV show in the UK with a bunch of contestants who've been chosen by producers to not get along, and then the zombie apocalypse happens outside, and they're like the only people in Britain who don't know about it. And obviously that premise is quite comical and ridiculous. And I think partly because my background was in comedy, we were keen to to play it straight and for it to be a very brutal and horrifying and upsetting thing. And I think the tone of it, I think the tone of that follows through into Black Mirror. The sort of the trick, as it were, of taking a ridiculous premise and then playing it very, very straight and examining what would happen if that really happened. Certainly, if you look at our first ever episode, the national anthem, it's very definitely the same sort of tone. It's a ridiculous premise that's played very straight and is upsetting and horrible. So in that way, Dead Set is very much it's kind of like a sister piece to Black Mirror.
Is this one of those shows that or themes or arenas that you've thought about revisiting? A storyline that might be fun to revisit?
Well, I suppose it's very interesting because the series, as you say, was 11 years ago, and it was about voyeurism and about self-obsession and about fame. And this was at a time before the word selfie had been even created. So it sort of feels very relevant today. So it's something that, you sort of think is still very interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that probably a better person to answer that question than us would be, is Claudio Torres here?
Claudio?
Is Claudio Torres here? Is he here?
There he is.
There he is.
Claudio Torres. Hello, Claudio.
Very hard to be here.
Welcome to the stage, Claudio.
Well, it's a pleasure
what do you have to share with us?
Well, actually, I'm working for Netflix right now, and I'm here to proudly present a new Netflix original series called Rio2C, and it's basically based on Dead Set, and I'm very glad to be here, and I'm very glad to have you here with us.
Amazing, amazing. Wow, well, we're super excited to have you involved with Rio2C. I know you just started production on the series just a few days ago, in fact. We were able to sneak over and see a little bit of it too yesterday, and you had lots of other visitors. So what's going on Rio2C?
Yesterday, you three were there, and we also have the visit of Ted Sarandos, who got so excited with what he saw that he decided to record a video. And if someone pressed the right button, we can see over there Ted Sarandos' visit.
Hi, I'm Ted Sarandos. I'm the Chief Content Officer at Netflix, and we're here in Brazil shooting our next big adventure in this amazing country. And we know how much you love reality shows. We thought, hey, why not make a reality show? Now, not a real reality show, but a scripted series about a reality show. Isn't that right, Sabrina?
É verdade, Ted. It's true, Ted.
Tell us all about this brand new Netflix original series in Brazil.
Ai, gente, vocês vão adorar. É uma série que fala... O que é isso? O que tá acontecendo, Ted?
No. It's okay. It's an old building. It's just a big settling noise. It's okay.
Ok. Como eu tava dizendo, gente, a série se passa no Rio de Janeiro, essa cidade maravilhosa. O que é isso, gente? O que tá acontecendo, Ted?
I know. I think they're just making a lot of noise with the cameras and the lights and everything. It's okay. Go ahead. Keep going.
É verdade, gente. Olha, tem um reality show acontecendo na série. E ai, eu vou ser apresentadora. Ai, gente.
Oh, no.
Ai, gente.
Everybody, we talked about this. We said no zombies today. Don't scare Sabrina with zombies today. We're just starting.
Zombie, I understand, zombie.
Yeah.
Gente, ninguém combinou comigo, ninguém falou pra mim que ia ter zumbi na série. Falaram pra mim, reality show, Ted, reality show.
The show is named Rio2Z. What did you think the Z stood for? Reality Zebra, that'd be a terrible show.
Eu sei lá o que é. Eu vou embora, Ted, eu vou embora.
No, I'm telling you, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be fine. These are TV zombies. They won't hurt anybody.
Ai, Ted, eu tenho medo, eu vou embora.
No, let's go outside. Fresh air, and then we'll relax. Okay.
Well, I think that every Brazilian citizen knows that we are living in the apocalypse, and and the appearance of zombies was just a matter of time. And the time has come, and we are now shooting Rio2C, and it has been a privilege to revisit that set, the wonderful 5 episodes that those 2 subversive guys sitting over there made 12 years ago, and it's really still really contemporary, and I'm very glad to have this honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's thrilling to see the combination of these talents come together. It's really exciting. Can you talk a little bit more about the process of developing the show when you first spoke to Charlie and Annabelle about it? A little bit more insight into that.
Rio2C will be a kind of tropical mirror, if you understand me, over their work. And to make a long story short, 1 year ago, Netflix came to Conspiração and proposed a remake of that set. I was already a huge fan of those guys, but I didn't know that set at the time. I watched it and went back to Netflix and asked, why the hell do you want to remake this? It's a masterpiece, because it is. You can see and watch for yourselves. And they asked me if I saw a way to continue that story. And I lie, I say yes, and I think a little bit more and propose something, and Netflix loved. And we proposed to Charlie and Annabelle. They gave us their blessing, and a lot of completely freedom of adaptation, which I really appreciate, and you'll be very generous with. And so we did it. We start working first, really studying the 5 original episodes, frame by frame, and trying to learn Charles' music. I mean, the guy jumps from comedy to horror, from political criticism to poetry, pure poetry, and it's hard. It's very lovely to have the chance to really study someone's work, somebody else's work. And then now we are shooting, and it's amazing.
Charlie and Annabelle, you had the chance to visit, and tell us about your experience, your first impressions.
It's been really strange. It's been really fun. I mean, one of the things I think when we first had a phone conversation with Claudio, something that was obvious straight away, and from your emails and everything, was that there was I would say, a shared sense of humor, probably a sickness. So we thought, oh, this is the safe hands here. And then when we went to the set yesterday, and it was kind of like stepping back in time, because when we made Dead Set, about 12, 11 years ago, and the thing I remember the most was we sat down yesterday and we ate lunch just off the set with a lot of the cast and crew, and I suddenly remembered how quickly you get used to eating opposite somebody with a giant neck wound or something like that, basically sitting there opposite dead people, that isn't enough to kill my appetite. That was one of the things I remember the most, and it looked really good fun. And we of the scripts that I've seen and everything, I think that the tone is still there. It's still very faithful to the original, while also being its own thing. So that's very exciting.
Yeah.
it felt very fresh walking on the set yesterday. It felt very different. It felt its own thing, and it felt very unique to Brazil. And when we made Dead Set, it was before The Walking Dead. And one of the key things we wanted to achieve was to make sure that the zombies in our TV series were as scary and challenging and brutal as you see in zombie films, in feature films. And that was one key thing we wanted to do. And so when we went to the set yesterday and we were lucky enough to see one of the zombie attacks, it was brutal, and it was ugly, and it was real, and it was visceral. And I felt very confident then that we, you know, Claudio can just bring that sort of dark, twisted comedy, but also hold on to the horror of the piece. Mm-hmm. So it was a great relief yesterday.
Yeah, I would say yes, because the tone of Dead Set is very much the same tone as Black Mirror, and so it's interesting to see. It's really interesting to see that translate into a new country.
Yeah, it was really fun for me to see all of you together, and likewise, I had that same experience at the meal where you're trying to not get the blood on you as you sit down to eat. But it's so Rio2C is one of the 30 Brazilian productions that are in the works today from Netflix that will be available to audiences around the world. And having the three of you on the stage today, I think, is a truly symbolic moment of where we are headed in the future of storytelling and an entertainment landscape where country of origin and language are no longer the borders they once were. And that's a real thrill for both the storytellers and audiences around the world. I think we're onto something very special.
What I could add is to say that Dead Set will forever be Dead Set, and Rio2C is a kind of son of Dead Set who grew up in a strange land called Brazil. So I think in really what connects us is this dark and sick sense of humor that I pretend to go on.
This is like
forever.
A support group now.
But it's going to be amazing. But I'm just a pure. I mean.
Yes. More to come on the Rio2C front. But that's all our time for tonight. And I want to thank everyone for coming, and I want to thank for the folks on the stage for sharing their insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you.